what is some advice I would give my younger self? And I think this isn't just my younger self, this is anybody, but a younger self of me would have benefited from this quite a bit. It's embracing the unknown. A lot of times in life, you'll do things and they require discipline and motivation and accountability. That stuff isn't the hard part. The hard part is the unknown as to whether or not that discipline, motivation, accountability, work you put in actually is going to lead to anything at all. Because it's possible it could all go to waste. And it's that unknown that exists that we try to fill with structure. So a lot of people will avoid doing something because it won't work. Oh, I'm not going to do that. It won't work. Or they avoid doing something different because they've constructed in their mind, oh, that's the wrong way, without any justification at all. So we like to find structure. And this is why I think at times people are comfortable taking on positions or jobs or whatever it might be that allow for more predictability. I don't want to call it stability, but predictability. Oh, if I do this, then in 10 years I might be this, in 15 years I can be this. And having structure is wonderful. It makes things a lot more manageable. But when you try and do something different, something new, something unique, there's so much unknown that exists that structure can be detrimental. Because structure can act as a false prophecy almost. Oh, if I put in 10 hours of work every day for the next 3 months, I'll make the NBA. Whatever example you want. The structure you provided yourself, like the physical ladder of like 5 hours every day, is fake. It's not real. There's no guarantee that it will get you anywhere. And this is the hardest thing to wrestle with because this false structure can affect what you're doing today. If you develop a false narrative or reality and you work towards that without the open mind that you might be wrong or what you might encounter or what you're doing has an unknown result, then you've built a structure or a raft for a river that you don't even know what's the tide like or depth like. Instead of going into that river and then existing in the now, as corny as that word is, with an agile plan to try and get through whatever you're trying to accomplish. So basically, it's the fact that we don't know an outcome, and then we try and predict that outcome or justify that outcome, is what gives me personally like a false sense of security when I tell myself those lies. Oh, if I do this, this will happen. And this is why on social media you see this propagated so often. Oh, you have like, I don't want to say like the David Goggins per se. It's not necessarily him, but he's the first guy that comes to mind, where it's this alpha macho bravado. If you just stick through it, you're going to get through it kind of thing. Versus the idea that I was listening to someone, I don't even know the podcast, I apologize, who was talking about Delta Force and some of their training. And basically he said that they would tell you what to do. They wouldn't tell you if you're doing well. They wouldn't tell you how much you have to do. You just have to do your best. And being able to do your best while the unknown exists of what's to come next is probably one of the most difficult things you can do. As an athlete, it's so easy to try and look for guidance or stability elsewhere, someone to tell you you're doing something right, just to reinforce some positivity. But the reality is, them saying you're doing it right or them saying you're doing it wrong, if it's just them saying it and they're not having some sort of They're not boots on the ground with you going through a process of logical analysis, and they're just like a yes man or a no man, then that's providing false inputs. And if you hang your hat on that false input, yes, you're doing it right, and you just keep doing what you're doing, but what you're doing is actually wrong, it's not a good outcome. So the great question is, how do you deal with the unknown? How do you deal with the fact you don't know what you're going to do is going to work? Well, you can't guarantee success, but you can guarantee you're not guaranteed to fail. What I mean by that is if you don't work towards something, you won't get to something. So there's a lot of paths that exist. Right off the bat, we can sift out the ones that are guaranteed to fail, the ones that don't involve any work. And then the whole time, we just try to be less wrong. So instead of thinking you're on the exactly right path and that you're in the trajectory you want to be, you want to approach the now with some level of skepticism. Maybe what I'm doing isn't right. This isn't paralysis by analysis to the point where you don't do anything because you're constantly trying to overanalyze it. That's a route that is guaranteed to fail. It's a process of, I'm going to do something in the now. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to evaluate that based on whatever best way I can do it. I want to go learn material sciences. I'm going to take a course, a class on it. I might test myself. I might meet other material scientists who I highly respect, and I can appraise my skills relative to them to get an idea if you're in the right direction, less wrong. What we're doing here is, instead of constantly trying to fill the unknown with a known, we accept the unknown as an unknown. We don't know what the future is going to hold. Which means if we don't know what the future is going to hold, we don't know if what we're doing right now is the best thing to be doing. And that changes your mindset quite a bit, because now you have to take a more humbled approach to this, a more open approach to this, and try and learn. It makes this much more of a living process, almost like an artistic process where you're painting on a canvas that continuously needs to be painted on. It's never done. Versus a closed outcome where you know if you put the puzzle pieces in the right spot, you're going to get a picture of a fish at the end of it. So what I would tell my younger self is, not knowing what the future holds is difficult. It provides and gives you lots of anxiety in life. It makes you nervous. Telling yourself what the future holds might give you a false sense of security. You constantly have to tell yourself the future is going to be this, it's going to be that. And if something deviates in your life that deviates you from the path of that future, that's tough, because you have to reconstruct a reality. Versus being like, I don't know what the future holds. I have no idea. I know what right now holds. I know what I would like to accomplish. I'm going to try and do my best. Just like the Delta Force thing I mentioned, just do your best at the task you have now. Analyze that task, understanding that what you are doing might not be the best, but it's probably not the worst. The worst is the route that's guaranteed to make you fail. When you do this, it allows you to stick to a plan, or stick to a process, or stick to whatever path or thing you want to do in life. I find much easier. I don't know if I'm going to achieve my personal goals, and I might fail publicly, but I'm not too concerned about that, because I can only focus on now. I can't sit here and worry about, oh my gosh, if I fail, let me construct what that reality looks like. Or if I succeed, let me construct what that reality looks like. Instead, I can say, here's the goal I'm working towards. This is the existence I would hopefully like to have, or something in that realm. I'm going to try to get there. Here are some common steps people have taken. Here are some unique steps I can take. Here are things where I think people maybe went a little bit wrong. Here are things that are going to help me. I'm going to listen to as much as I can, collect as much information as I possibly can, and do my best to be less wrong, knowing that I'm probably not doing what's perfect, but it's not the worst. So that's the advice I'd give my younger self, and it's a little bit abstract and kind of existential, but I think we could all really use a friendly reminder of just how much we construct in our reality that doesn't actually exist. And then we hang on to those things as if they do physically exist. And it somehow becomes part of us. And then when our life changes and moves from left to right, it shakes up our fake reality. And so in that sense, instead of trying to convince people I have a certain reality, I just share what's currently existing right now and what I'm trying to do. So that's my advice to a younger version of me, or maybe someone else who could use some advice to help deal with the kind of difficulties of not knowing. So, appreciate you guys.